We have to go home.
All right. Very market type to this share now because like this I get out of packing. So it's gonna be a long one. It's gonna be a long one.
Much patience.
Yeah, maybe till tomorrow or something. Can we do tomorrow's
See them through this Mashiach.
Yeah.
But you get very excited about that. Through this Mashiach.
Yeah.
You starting from Beis Amud Aleph tonight?
We're doing Chazorah from Shabbos. Yeah. Okay, well, anyways, what can you do? We got to start Daf Chaf. What should we do? All right, top line.
Yeah, first just have in mind Baruch Ben Sivia.
Yerushalayim. Okay, so we're on Daf Chaf Amud Aleph on the top line. We're in the middle of all the shilas that Abaye was asking Rabbah. Yeah. Truth is, it's a relatively easy daf. Let's see. So Bamine Abaye Rabbah. Yeah, top line. So Chotzer Sharoisha Nichnas Lebein Apasin. Ma'ul Talta Misoicha Lebein Apasin. And we're in Apasin Lesoicha. So if you see, well, hey, nobody posted any charts on this one. Yeah. Does Art School have on this one?
Let me see if I have. Hold on.
Okay, but meanwhile, let's go through it. So you have a chotzer. Now, normally we had these pasin, which is a bar, and then it had the four corners of the pasin on the corner. Oh, thank you. Let's see what they look like. Yeah. Right. So you have the four corners. Right. So you have those four corners thing. Now, stuck in between them is the end of a chotzer. Right. Stuck in between them, you have a chotzer. Two chutzers, and there's going to actually be two chutzers, one next to the other. Right. So, which picture is it that you sent? No, they had an interesting way of doing it. Okay, either way, so you have within the four corners of these pasin, a chotzer stuck into it. So the question is, can you take from the pasin to the chotzer, from the chotzer to the pasin? Now, what's the shaila? Why not? Why can't you take? So we know that one chotzer, if I have a chotzer next to your chotzer, even though we're completely fenced in, if I want to carry from yours to mine, or from mine to yours, you need to do the bread thing, right? We need to put bread together, and we need to combine them so that we're all sharing. That's the literal translation of an eruv. So you don't have it here. So you have this chotzer stuck in the pasin, and you don't have this eruv. So are you allowed to carry from the chotzer into these pasin or not? Amalei mutter. So Rabbah told him it's mutter. So shtayimai, what happens if it's two chatzeres next to each other? Right, so you have two chatzeres, but both stuck in to this thing with the pasin. Amalei also. That he told him it's also. Right? Va'amra and Amra of Hunashtayim Asur and two are also. But filu ervu, even if they make an eruv together, these two are also. Because some people might say that an eruv helps in order to go in between the pasin. Meaning, there's two independent things going on here. There is two chatzeres next to each other, and they have doors opening into this well area, right, the area of the well, and they also have openings to each other. So Rav Huna is making a gezerah that even though they make an eruv with each other, they still can't carry into the pasin, because then people are going to think that even if you don't have an eruv, you can carry to each other through the pasin, and that's not allowed. And Rava Amar Irvu Mutter, if they did make an eruv, then it is mutter. Can you shut that door, please? So Amalei Abaye Rava, Tanya de Masayelach, and there's another case of Abaye told Rava that I have a raya to you. Meaning Abaye and Rava are Machlokes, and now Abaye is telling Rava, I have a brisa that's like you. Right? That's called a Machlokes l'shem shemayim. Right? Abaye is proving Rava's case. I'm sorry, I said Rava. Abaye is proving Rava's case. He has a brisa to back up Rava. If you have a chotzer who's the head of the chotzer, goes inside. These pasin mutter l'talta mitochel mitochel lebein pasin or lebein pasin l'tochel. That's again the same case. You have a chotzer that's sticking out inside the area of this well, right? So you're allowed to carry from the chotzer into the pasin, from the pasin to the chotzer. Avashtayim also. But if there's two chatzeros going into these pasin, then that's also. That's only if they didn't make the eruv. Aval irvu motarin. But if they did make the eruv with each other, then it's mutar. So lema to give to the Rav Huna. So let's say this is a proof to Rava, and it's a kasha Rav Huna, because Rav Huna said we make a gezerah that even if they make an eruv with each other, you're not allowed to combine. So you're not allowed to carry into that pasin. So Malach Rav Huna hasam the hadron ve'irvan. No, they're talking about they made. Basically, what they did, they had two openings in the chutzah, right? Since they had two openings, right? It was right. Rashi has a. See, if you look at Rashi, see Rashi's. You see the chart. This one Rashi has. Yeah, they have two chatzeros going into the pasin, and then there's a big opening in the back, right? So therefore, since that's such a big opening in the back, so everybody's going to know that if they made an eruv, that they must have made an eruv with each other, so that's why they're carrying into the pasin or not, right? So therefore, that's the case. But if they would not have that back opening, right,
what opening in the back? The back of the pasin?
Where it says in the Rashi, you see the chart in Rashi says pirza. I think, at least in my Rashi, it does.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Right, so they made it. There's an extra opening back there. So since people see that, that means they know that they must have made it. They must have made an eruv to each other. Yeah. Fine. So Bomi, that's okay. So that's.
But there's always an opening in the back of the pasin.
In the front.
The definition of a pasin in the back, it's open, right?
No. That's in the front. This is one's got an additional opening in the back.
Okay.
No, you see that?
Yeah.
So since there's an extra opening there, so then people are going to know they must have made an eruv with each other, and that's why they're carrying. That's why they're carrying back and forth. Okay, so that's one shaila. Next shaila. B'minei abayim mirabba. Another shaila abayis from Rabba. Yavshu mayim b'Shabbos ma'o. This is an easier case. So we said that this is a special dispensation, right? Nobody can make an eruv around your house, putting up 4 double beams on the corner of each part of the property, right? You cannot do that for your house. You have to use it Tzuras HaPesach, right? But this was a special dispensation for people to be able to feed their animals when they went up to yerushalayim. But what happens if the well dried up in the middle of Shabbos? Can you still carry in there, right? So if the water dried up on Shabbos, what's it in? This is similar to what we had 2 days ago or 3 days ago. What happens if the eruv gets puzzled? It's not exactly that case. What happens if the eruv gets puzzled in the middle of Shabbos? Right, but whatever it is. So Yavshu Mayim b'Shabbos Ma'o. If it dries, what's the din? Amalei klum nasis mechitza ela b'shul mayim. Wasn't this thing only made as a mechitza for the water? The only reason why we had a heter to do this is for the water. Mayim ain't kan, mechitza ain't kan. If there's no water, then the mechitza is no longer any good. Because the whole point was in order to feed the animals the water. And if there's no water, so then why should it work? So boy, Ravin, Yavshu Mayim b'Shabbos ubo b'Shabbos Ma'o. Well, what happens if the water dried up? And then let's say it rained, and now it filled up again. So now it became puzzle in the middle of Shabbos, and then it became kosher again. So I'm going to say, Yavshu b'Shabbos loyti b'ayil t'bay minei demar upashitli the aser. I didn't ask that to you, right? Yeah, that's. I mean, no, that shouldn't be a question to you. The boy, the money the mar partially the aser, because I asked it from Mar, and he was pashut that it is aser. So if the water came on Shabbos, it should also not be a question because it's a mechitza that happened on Shabbos, which we had before in Masechta Shabbos actually. That if for some reason a mechitza lands, let's say a mechitza lands and you're missing an eruv, and then all of a sudden in the middle of Shabbos, a mechitza lands out of the sky. Now you have yourself a mechitza. Does that work? And we said yes, it does work. So that's what happened here. You had this mechitza that was really no good, but then it rained, and now it became good because now you could feed your animals.
Excuse me. I have to tell you a case I told Gershon about like 5 days ago. I wasn't going to bother you with it, But when we learned it on, 1 second, on Yud Zayin Amud Beis, and you were talking about making it, when you had the Simcha in the family, you made about making everybody the Shmoshes. I wrote I was talking to Gershon, let's say the soldier, because we were learning about the soldiers then, right? So they weren't going to make an Erev. They have to make Erev Techumen, the soldiers, right? They didn't make one because they didn't have gas for the tanks. And all of a sudden, gas showed up on Shabbos for the tanks. So now they want to move. So can they make an Erev Techumen on Shabbos, which is a dries? But now they have tank. Now they're back to being soldiers. They want to go another 10 miles this Shabbos.
I hear. So it's an interesting case, but okay. I mean, I don't think they can. I mean, the Chum has to be there before Shabbos, no?
Well, the Mechama was before, but they had no reason to make the Erev because they had no fuel for the tanks. So they knew they had to stay put for Shabbos. And you said a mechitza, it came from Shemayim. So a gasoline truck came from Shemayim.
Right, but the question is, how are you going to do how are you doing the Eruv?
Okay, okay.
Right, so it's a little different, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I argue that they might not need one. Do they need to make an Erev?
I mean, because that's a dispensation because of soldiers, you're saying?
Yeah, they're going to war on Shabbos. That means there's pikuach nefesh involved. Do they need an
Erev? Could be not. L'chara not. I would think not. Okay, we'll see when we get to Erev Tchum. Yeah? Okay, so let's see weiter. So anyway, so he says, V'tanya, right, we're right by the chart in the Rashi. Tanya, kol mechitza, suyi b'Shabbos, bein b'shoigig, bein b'mezeh, bein b'oinus, bein b'rotzen, shmo mechitza. Right, we had this price in Shabbos. Any mechitza that happens on Shabbos, whether it happened by mistake, on purpose, on oinus, rotzen, is considered a mechitza. So the Gemara is asking, didn't we learn on this that this is only to throw, but to carry in there, that doesn't work? Yeah, so now, again, what we said a couple of times before is that whenever the Gemara uses the word zrika, to throw, it's just a code word for daraisa. So what the Gemara is saying, didn't we say that these pasin will work in order to be mechayiv somebody? Let's say somebody takes something and throws from the Reshus Hayachid into these pasin. So that would be mechayivim. But that's not going to necessarily let you carry with inside there. Meaning midrabanan, it's still an issue. That's what the Gemara is saying. We're only saying that you're allowed to, if you're going to throw it in there, then you're going to be chayiv because it's considered a mechitza midaraisa. But in the Rabbanon do not allow you to carry in there, right? So so we say no. When Rav Nachman said is then he's going on the mezid, right? He's going dafka when you do it on purpose. Yeah. Yeah, so then that's why it's going to become mutter again to carry there. So Amar Rabbi Lazar, Azarik lebein pasiv is chayiv. Yeah, and Rabbi Lazar said that somebody who throws something in between these things on Shabbos is going to be chayiv. So clearly, it's considered a mechitza deraisa. Yeah, Amar lei, or saying pshita, it's pashut, right? It's pashut. Ilav, if it's not a mechitza, ilav mechitza he heichi mishteri leilamalis. If it's not a mechitza, how are you going to allow anybody to fill up the water from the well and give it to the animal? Yeah. So leitzricha David kain pasik b'rois Reshus Hayachid v'zorek l'soicha chayiv. No, so what we're talking about is, let's say a guy decides in the middle of Reshus Hayachid to put up 4 of these beams. There's no well anywhere to be found, but a guy decides he's going to put up 4 beams before Shabbos in Reshus Hayachid. Does that now have a din of Reshus Hayachid? So that's what we're saying. So we're saying yes, it does. It's gonna midaraisa. It's gonna have a din. You can't carry within there because the Rabbanon don't allow it. Midaraisa, it's going to make a mechitza, even though it's not, it can't work normally for a well. So the Gemara says, "Honami pshita." That's also pashut. If you're not gonna, if it's not considered a mechitza, how are we ever gonna allow it by a bar? So we say, "Leitzricha avagav de kabaki barabim." No, we're saying that even though even though the rabim is traveling through there, right? Even though the rabim is traveling through there, right? So it's still gonna be considered a Reshus Hayachid. Like we discussed this, and the Gemara is going to discuss it now. That when you're making a mechitza, right? So a mechitza or a tzuras pesach, that's supposed to be a wall. It's a virtual wall, but it's supposed to be a wall. But if you have a street traveling through your wall, how can you call that a wall? Right? I mean, you're taking. It's almost like you're trying to get the best of both worlds, which can't blame anybody for trying to get the best of both worlds. But Lamaisa, how does it work? You're saying that these four cornered pasin around the well makes it into mechitza. But if you got a main thoroughfare traveling right through it, so how can you call it a mechitza? So that's what we're saying. The chiddush is that even if there's a main thoroughfare going through it, if somebody were to throw a ball from Reshus Harabim to within these pasin, he's going to be chayiv. Yeah.
We're assuming that the bor came at the pasim came after the chutzner was built.
You mean otherwise? Why would they ever build it there with the street going through
I'm
it?
just asking, what happens if the bor was there first and they did? Does anything change if the pasim were there first and the bor was there first? And does anything change?
I don't think anything changes. I don't think so. I could hear what she's saying, but I don't think it changes anything. Bottom line is the rabbim goes through there. How can you say that it's a mechitza? What you're going to see is there's a machlokes. Right, so that's the Gemara. So my kamashman, Dalai also rabbim mavata mechitza. Are you trying to teach us that a rabbim is not mavata mechitza? Because meaning, if the rabbim is mavata the mechitza, so that means it's considered Reshus Harabim. When a guy throws something in there, he should be potter. But we're saying that he's chayiv, even though there's a main thoroughfare going through. Right? But Rabbi Lazar already said this one time. If a Reshus Harabim is going through this pasei birois, through this well with its boards, you have to move the street. You have to what do you call it? How do you call it? You have to reroute. That's what it is. You have to reroute the Reshus Harabim around your boards. Otherwise, it's no good. Chacham say you don't need it. But Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar damit about kana diachakaychan shel mechitzas. And Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar say that this teaches you the koyach of mechitzas. Right? So that means that the koyach of mechitzas, that what? That it's even mavatal a Reshus Harabim. It's even going to make a mechitza. So clearly, Rabbi Lazar holds that the rabbim is not mavatal the mechitza. So
how did you teach your salkena litzadin?
You remove you reroute the street.
Maybe that's what the Gemara means a blot ago. Walking behind his wife on a bridge. The salkena litzadin means move the bridge to the side.
How are you doing that?
That's how far he has to go.
Okay. Okay, I hear. That I hear. Mm-hmm. I hear. Yeah. Okay, I don't know. I hear your pshat. That's very good. You shall can. That's how far you have to go, but it's not a practical pshat. But okay. Either way, so the point is that Rebbe Lazar already told us that the mechitzas work, even if Reshus Harabim goes through it. So the Gemara says, right? So he would say that yes, he says it, meaning he's saying he holds that it's the koyach of the mechitzas, but he himself doesn't agree with it. Kamash Malon, Kanu Svirulei. That's what tells you that he is saying. Not only do I say that, not only am I pointing out that that's how strong mechitzas are, but even right. But I even hold of it too. So then, okay, so say the other pshat, and then you don't need this, right? So we say you need to learn one from the other, right? Not you need to, but you do learn one from the other. We're on the bottom of Chaf Amid Aleph by the two dots now for all those that are joining now. Yeah, fine. Okay, so then the Mishnah says that you're allowed to be makriv, you're allowed to not be makriv, you're allowed to make these pasim go as close to the bar as you want, as long as there's enough room for the animal to put its head and most of its body in there. Hatzitran lo yamed adam Reshus Hayachid v'yishte Reshus Hayachid. Reshus Hayachid v'yishte Reshus Hayachid. El imkein machnis roishe beruba l'makom shu shoyse. A person cannot. This is referring to a person, right? Let's say you have a water fountain in a Reshus Hayachid, or you're standing on the corner of Reshus Hayachid, right? And you want somebody to give you a drink. So, can you stick your head into the Reshus Hayachid and somebody gives you a drink? Right? You're standing with Reshus Hayachid and you stick your head in and they pour some food and they pour some drink into your mouth. Or you're in Reshus Hayachid and somebody gives you something from the Reshus Hayachid. Yeah? So can you do that? So you can't
Isn't
do
that
that
like the first? Isn't that like the first case almost in Shabbos? With the onion and everything passing back and forth?
Yeah, that's fair.
Is there a difference between putting it in your mouth and putting it in your hand?
Is there a difference in putting it in your mouth and putting it into your
Are you
hand?
being makabala, like the first, like Naftali's saying, the first Mishnah in Shabbos? You're being
Right.
makabala. Yeah, are you being makabala if you open your? If you open your mouth and rain goes in, I mean, is there any difference?
His mouth is in the same reshus as the object in this case. Not in a different reshus.
Right, but he's asking, can you put it into a guy's hand? I thought
That was
there's
part
no
of the
difference.
cases on Shabbos. We turned it out to be 64 cases.
No,
Remember,
but right, very good,
you know,
very good. But the reason why a hand is not negay is because what are you doing with it? Now that you put, let's say I give you a piece of cake in your hand. What are you gonna do with that? Your mouth is in Reshus Hayachid, right?
What about if you're standing and you
you're
just
saying,
eat
you
it?
mean
You're
you were
supposed to
talking about
carry. You worry
cases
about walking,
inside.
right?
You say you want to stick your head and your hands inside the Reshus Hayachid, inside to the Reshus Hayachid, and then they're going to put it into your hand and you put it into your mouth. I would say that's the same case. Yeah, I
That's
think
like
it's the same
Rosh
case.
Haruba Shulchana, Ben Sukkah.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what it is. So we're saying,
Why is that considered a hanacha in his stomach? His hanacha was into his mouth. So the akira and the hanacha were in Reshus Hayachid.
Exactly, Gershon. It's no dimyon to the first case in the Mishnah.
No, but should be better. What does
he's
he
stop-
mean? Ruba Reshus Hayachid.
There's nothing to do with it, the case.
well, who said no? I think the hanoch is in the mouth. The hanoch is in the stomach.
But isn't it problematic if you over Dalit Amos? Meaning if you Akira Anacha without Dalit Amos, is that a problem?
He didn't do
No,
a Kibra Hanacha. His head is in the guy's dining room, and the guy feeds him. What's the big deal?
That's what I'm saying. Is that considered Hanacha being makabel with your mouth open?
No, so clearly
It's,
that's
it's nothing. It's eating a piece of kugel.
No, that's
And
what
what's
it is.
lesser about it?
That's what I'm asking. There's nothing lesser about it.
Right, that's exactly right. It's only,
Right.
but you have to have Rosh Hayachid in the makom that you're drinking. Meaning, either
Good.
you have to
So,
have Rosh
yeah.
Hayachid, right? You have to have
Why?
Rosh Hayachid in there.
It's a
Why?
mamish case. It's a case of it's a Mari. A Mari. It was a case for a Mari this week. He got his Rosh Hayachid inside when they were Megaya him. It's whole Rubai, big Rubai.
I'm saying, but what's a pshat? What is it accomplishing by putting Rosh Hayachid in there?
You're in the same reshus.
Yeah.
He's in
You're
the same
in the-
reshus without the
Right.
rubai.
Right?
If his
so
hand and his mouth are in the same reshus, he's
right.
not doing anything
what
wrong.
happens if you just let's say you just stick your mouth in, right? Why do you have to have
That's
right
even
in your
better
body?
because then the other guy did the akira.
What? What are you saying, Gershon? So bottom line is
The case where someone else is feeding him is even better.
well, because he's not doing any sort of akira.
Yeah, he's doing nothing. He's not doing akira or
That's a
hanacha.
shnayim
The other
asur,
guy's
yes.
doing akira and hanacha in his own reshus.
Right, but I mean, if somebody feeds him, so that's what you guys are saying. That's the first mission Shabbos, because that's one picking it up and somebody else putting it down.
No, it's better. It's much better than the Mishnah in
It
Shabbos.
is better, right? But that's the first mission on Shabbos.
Even better than that. The Mishnah in Shabbos was saying basically a shtaim sha'asu kind of thing. The one inside is doing the akira, and the one outside is doing the hanacha.
Right.
Here, if it's just his mouth in there, and the guy in Reshus Hayachid is doing the akira and the hanacha in Reshus Hayachid, what happened?
Right. Right. No, Chanami, right. So then why does he need rubai? Why does he need most of his body? The pshat is because he
Yeah.
has most of his body. Why are we not afraid Why are we not afraid that he's going to carry it out to Reshus Hayachid? So if he
Let's
has
say he
most of his
does, but it's already
So,
inside him. Who
Yaakov, you're saying
cares?
like it's a case like sukkah. That's what you're saying. One Rosh won't be
correct. Yeah,
he won't-
exactly right. Yeah,
oh,
right. Yes,
right.
that's what who was saying. That was
Michael said it. Yeah.
Mike,
Saying-
right? Mike, you said that, right?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
I think it's the same shot. That if you have right of your body in there, then you're not going to end up forgetting to take it out, right? Because if you carry it out, then you can have a problem, right? You may not be over in a dries gershon because somebody else helped you out, but it's still going to be a derabbanan, right? Whatever it is, you need Rosh Veruba in order that you don't forget to carry it out, right? V'chein, now we're on Talmud Beis. V'chein begas, and the same thing by a wine press. Kabi Adam, right? No, 1 second. So now what's by gas? So the halacha is that when you're in the field, you can eat any vegetables you want. You don't need to take off meiser, right? As long as you're still out in the field, or right, it only becomes chayav and meiser once you bring it into a house. So as long as you're in the field, then you're okay, right? So, but once it goes out of so a wine press is the same thing. You want to drink some wine or take some grapes, you don't have to take off meiser. But once it leaves the wine press area, then it becomes like a final stage, and then you can. So what happens if a guy sticks it in there, sticks his head into the gas, right? So can he now eat grapes that meiser wasn't taken off of? So the Gemara is saying yes, right? So now the Gemara says, Gabi Adam, right? Ha Omar the boy Rosh Veruba, Gabi Para Mibi in La Rosh Veruba Aloi. So by a person, we say you need Rosh Veruba to be in there. But what about the para? Does the cow, when it's drinking from the well with these pasim, right, with these lechis, does it need to have Rosh Veruba in there or not? So where you were holding the bucket and you weren't holding the head of the animal to make sure it doesn't move, there's no question. The bay Rosh Veruba milagav, that you need the head and most of it to be inside. Because if you're not holding on to the animal's head, then the animal might just move its head out, and you're going to follow along as you're feeding the animal with your bucket, right? You're going to follow along with your bucket, and you're going to and it's going to go out, right? So therefore there's no shaila if you're not holding on to the head. Kiti ba'ilach, when do you have the question? Hey, the nakat mana v'nakat law, where you're holding the bucket that it's drinking, and you're also holding on to the head of the animal. So now what's the concern? You're holding the head of the animal's not gonna move its head out into Reshus Hayachid. So do you still need Rosh Veruba, or is just Rosh enough? So what's it then? So we learned that it's as long as the animal's got its head and most of its body inside and drinks it. My law, the knocket mana. Or is it not talking about where you're holding onto the bucket and you're holding onto its head and you're holding onto the bucket? Talking about where you are holding onto the bucket and you're not holding onto it, right? So, but because if you were, then you wouldn't. If you were holding onto both, then you wouldn't need it. You wouldn't need to. You wouldn't need to have Rosh Veruba in there. But if you're holding on to the bucket and you're not holding on to the head, is it mutter? Meaning, even are you even allowed to give the animal to drink even in that way? A person should not take water and put it in front of his behemoth, but you're allowed to fill it up, the bucket, and pour it out in front of the animal, and then it could drink by itself. So you see that you're not allowed to, right? You're not allowed to take a bucket and put it right in front of an animal on Shabbos, right? You only have to spill it out. So Gemara answers, no, we learn on this. I'm going to buy the avos, right? What do we call an avos? A trough, right? That's the thing that the animals eat at. That's like the long thing that the animals put their heads in. It's in Reshus Hayachid. Gavaya Yud Gavaya Yud Tvachim v'Roichav Dalet. It's 10 tvachim high and has a width of 4, which we know makes it into a Reshus Hayachid. So Rosh Hayachid nichnas lebein pasin, and one end of this trough is going into between these pasin. So now what are you trying to do? Feed your animal. So we're saying that if you're going to actually put the bucket in front of your animal, this is a very interesting gezerah. It seems very far-fetched. So what's the gezerah? Gezerah, dilmei chazilei la'evos d'makalkel. While you're feeding your animal, you're going to see this trough that it looks like it's destroyed. It got something wrong with it. And you're going to come to fix it. And you're going to end up carrying the bucket with you, the kamavim Reshus Hayachid, you're going to end up carrying the bucket from Reshus Hayachid. Right? So therefore, we're saying like this. So the reason why you can't put the bucket right under the animal's mouth is talking about a case where there was an avos, a trough sticking into these dries, and the avos is out, is considered Reshus Hayachid, and we're afraid that if you're going to hold the bucket in front of the animal, you're going to look at something's going to be broken. You're going to carry it outside you're going to go fix the trough, which is outside these mechitzas or these pasim, right? And you're going to end up carrying the bucket, and therefore you're going to be chayiv for carrying from Reshus Hayachid. So Gemara says,
why does this Bezeira need the second part? Why isn't V'asi L'tikune enough?
I mean, I don't know. Is the Asi Tikuni and this a deraisa?
It depends what you do. I mean, why not?
I don't know. I don't think you're gonna we're chaysher that a guy is gonna come be masakin things. That means why you ever allowed to feed? Meaning I don't think it means any a tikkun that's an isser at all. You're just gonna come to fix it, push it in back into the right spot or whatever it is, and then you're gonna forget the bucket, which would be that's what I think. But it could be I don't know. So then Gemara says, this also goes back to Gemara Shabbos. And in this situation, would you be chayiv? If somebody moves his belongings from one corner to the other corner, meaning you're taking boxes and you're moving it around your house. You want to take it from one corner, move it to another corner. And then you change and then you took them out and you put them out on the streets and you put them. Why? Because when you picked it up, that was not your intention. When you picked up this box to move it, your intention was to move it to another side of the house. Okay, there was nothing wrong with doing that. So basically, your akira.
But why isn't your next step when you decide to walk outside another akira?
Because obviously this Gemara is going with that hanocha they have to actually put it down. You're right. According to akira, no, it's not an akira. You'd have to put it down. There's no new akira here. He's holding the box in his hand the whole time. You're talking about
it's a problem.
Every step.
Right.
No?
I don't remember whose sheet is who. You're saying Rabbi Kiva, right? So no, that Naftali, this Gemara is going with the sheet that holds that it's not considered a new akira and hanoch.
Okay.
No, yeah, very good. Yeah. So how could this guy be chayiv? Now getting back to our case, so we're saying that this guy is in the middle of feeding his animal, and then he's gonna see that something's broken. So he's gonna forget that he's carrying a bucket. And he's going to end up carrying to Reshus Hayachid. What do you mean? When he picked up that bucket, there was no intention to take it out of Reshus Hayachid. So therefore, the akira was done unintentionally, so it should be no problem. Right? No. So we're saying, we're afraid he's going to fix it, and then he's going to go back, right? And he's going to put it into the trough, and then he's going to go and carry it from Reshus Hayachid, then he's going to pick it up with the intention to bring it back and move it from Reshus Hayachid into Reshus Hayachid. Okay. Now we have the same exact Gemara. We get a freebie now. It's the same exact Gemara, just in the opposite direction. Yeah. By a person, we said it's enough to put your head and most of your body in Gabi Para. Is it enough for a para to put its head and most of its body in there or not? Where are you holding the bucket and you're holding the animal's head? There's no question. That's enough with Rosh Hashanah. Where the question is, where you're holding the bucket, but you're not holding onto the animal. So what's the din? So we learned it's somewhere where the para, you have to have para, most of it, of the head and most of the animal has to be inside. My love, the knocket mana below knocket law. Is it not talking about where you're holding onto the bucket and you're not holding onto the animal? So our answer is like the knocket mana knocket law. No, we're talking about where you're holding both the bucket and the animal. And that's also makes sense. The knocket mana below knocket law mishari. So if you're only holding onto the bucket, you're not holding onto it. Is it motor? But Tani lo yimali other mind eating lefnei behem to have a mali b'shach v'isha semeilel. A person is not allowed to fill up water and put it in front of the animal with the bucket. But he could fill up a bucket and pour it, and it'll drink by itself. So my answer is, right? We're talking about an avos that's 10 tvachim high, 4 tvachim wide, and the top of it goes inside these pasin. The zimin, the chazi leila avos, the makalkali. Sometimes the person's going to see that the trough got broken, and he's going to come to fix it. And he's going to carry the bucket with him. He's going to carry Reshus Hayachid. So the Gemara says, I'm reading it fast just because this is a repeat. In this case, is it chayev? Somebody is carrying his belongings from one corner to the other corner. And he changed his mind. And he carries them outside to Reshus harabim. Even though he carried from Reshus harabim, he's potter. Why? Because his original akira was not to carry out the Reshus harabim. So therefore, there was no kavana to do the entire issur. So here too, when he's going to carry the bucket from these bayros to outside, his original akira is not in order to carry it outside. Now we say sometimes he's going to fix it, and then he is going to put it down. And then he's going to carry Reshus Hayachid. Fine. So, okay, so that's the other version of the Gemara. Then the Gemara asks a few more lines. Tashima, Gamal, a camel, if a camel has its head and most of its body inside, you're allowed to, Eifsin means we had this at the end of Shabbos. You're allowed to stuff its face in the inside. And avos is as if you're holding on to the animal. I'm sorry, not the avos. I'm stuffing it because you're busy stuffing it. The reason why they did this with the camels is because they took camels on long trips and they needed to give it a lot of food to last the whole trip. So when you're stuffing it, it's as if you're holding on to the bucket and you're holding on to the animal. Yet the Gemara still says, you still need Reshus Hayachid. No, a camel's neck is very long, so therefore it's no problem, right? Since its neck is very long, so it can move its head out to the Reshus Hayachid very easily. So therefore, we want to make sure that Rosh Hashanah is inside, so you don't end up carrying outside. So Toshima behema sherosh v'ruba b'fnim oivsenoisa. It's an animal whose head is and most of its body is inside. You're allowed to also force feed it. So stuffing it is as if you're holding on to it and you're holding on to the bucket for kavina and Rosh Hashanah. Yet you still need Rosh Hashanah, even if you're holding the bucket and the animal. And we said before that if you hold the bucket and you hold the animal's head, for sure you don't need Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara says, "My behema nami dekatani gamel." What's a behema that we're referring to? It means a camel. About tani behema, about tani gamel. What do you mean? We have a brisa that says camel. We have a brisa that says animal, right? So why? How can you say that they both means the same thing? So the Gemara answers, "Midigavi adadi tanya." Did we learn both of these things? Did we learn both of these brises together? Right? So we didn't learn them together. So therefore, it means the same thing. Just one Tana called it a camel, one Tana called it an animal. Rabbi Elazar says that it's usher, right? Because the neck of the camel is so long, so you're not allowed to do it, right? Only if when it's in Reshus Hayachid. Okay, that's it. Okay, so we could stop there. That's already a new Gemara. Okay, fine. I hope I didn't.
Excuse me. What time tomorrow morning? 9 and 9:30.
9.
9. Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to vote.
All right. Okay. Good talk, everybody. Stay safe.
Good
Good
Good.
The shir tomorrow.
What time is it tomorrow?
9 a.m.
No, that was the morning shir, 9 a.m.
Oh, tomorrow night is
Are we going back to regular 9:45?
No.
9:45.
No.
I don't see that.
Oh,
I don't see that's going to work. What's the matter, Naftali?
What?
What? 9:45 is what are you doing till
The
9?
earlier you make it, the harder it is for me.
The what?
Why? You don't do
Earlier
anything
you
all
make
day?
it, the harder it is for me.
You're in bed already. What difference does it make?
I know, but I'm not in bed at that time.
Yeah, I want to see.
No.
Jesse, don't come home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, maybe if you woke up when the sun was coming up, you would have that problem.
Listen, I would prefer to start at 9 o'clock personally.
Oh, done. 9
But-
o'clock. We want to make you
But
happy.
if the Ilam who says 9 o'clock doesn't work, please put out the vote. Put out the vote, and we have to do what's best for